All right, guys, welcome back. So, moving on to the third module now, that is variables and facts. So, let's quickly deep dive into it. So, variables, I know if you are from an IT background, you definitely have heard about this term. What are variables? So, most of you guys have gone through C, Python, and have used variables in it. So, I assure you that the concept is same. So, what essentially variables are used for in Ansible is to customize the playbooks dynamically. And so, you can use variables to store uh, ever changing data or to reuse the code so that once a variable is set, so it becomes more flexible, more reusable, and it's more aware about the environment. So we can tweak the variable name instead of hard coding the values directly inside the code to make the code more robust. So here is a table mentioning the different types of variables that are present in Ansible. So first is inventory variables, and you have seen already in the inventory section a video about these variables like Ansible underscore host name, like Ansible underscore username. These are an inventory variables. Playbook variables. Now, in the topic of playbooks, when we go on those slides, we will go there in deep down what those playbook variables are. But essentially, they work the same like the inventory variables itself. Extra variables, suppose while running the code, we have to pass out some variables explicitly through CLI. Then extra variables come into picture. Facts, we are going to discuss this about in the next lecture in deep detail. What are facts? So we can skip it for now. And registered variables. So these are special variables where, sorry, so these are special variables where we can store tasks output so that we can use them later. Suppose we run some command and have to store some output which we have to use, or which is a precedence to some future code. So these are registered variables. So like we gather some data and store it and use it for our further code. These are registered variables. So here is an example. So this is an example in Playbook. So don't bother about understanding what is these key and values for now. These are we will discuss them in deep dive in the Playbook section. So variables essentially are stored into the vars key and then variable name, and the value is given in a key value format. So this is an first one example of how the variable is passed on. So you can see over here app underscore port is given 8080 value, and in our tasks, so we have explicitly called this variable. Now this templating is called as ginger formatting templating. So when we pass in with the two curly brackets, so it will pick up that value which is implicitly assigned to the app underscore port. So essentially this port will come as 8080. This is a second example. As we discussed, is extra vars, that is we pass in through the CLI. So we can explicitly pass on the app underscore post at 9090. So it will pick up this value while running the playbook. All right, the next term to understand is variables precedence. So as we saw in the last lecture, so in the configuration files, so we talked about precedence, like if it's at a default location, or if it's at in our playbooks directory, or if it's directly passed implicitly through the CLI. Similarly, in variables as well, the same precedence logic applies, and so according to the precedence, the Ansible will use those variable values. So this is the order for this document has been directly picked up from Ansible documentation. So from top to bottom, that the roles defaults will have the lowest precedence, and extra variables as usual, like that we pass through the CLI, will have the highest precedence when it comes to passing the variable. So all these variables will have the precedence accordingly. So I'll give you 5 seconds. You can click a screenshot of this slide as well. All right, moving on. So the next important concept now is facts. So what are facts exactly? So while running an Ansible script, so every time if you mention in your configuration file that the gathering term that we had discussed in the first lecture, that I had said that we will discuss here in detail. So gathering is Ansible's way to gather everything, all the information that it seems that it requires or seems important for him to gather before running the playbook. So, for example, facts can be the OS type, that is the OS version, and the flavor or the type of the server, the IP address of that server, CPU, which CPU is being used, memory, host name, etc. So all these are called as facts of the server. So these they can be mentioned as variables in your playbook. So these are the commonly used facts inside our Ansible code. So you can take a screenshot. We'll just discuss quickly the Ansible underscore host name. We saw that previously as well, so, in the inventory file. So something unique C Ansible underscore Ansible distribution version. So here, as we discussed previously, that version of the OS will be derived from this fact variable. Then OS family, that is which Linux or Windows flavor is being used, that can be derived from this fact variable. Architecture, processor, how many cores, memory total in megabytes, then the IPv4 addresses, everything and anything regarding to the infrastructure of those servers can be derived using these facts. So it's a great tool to be utilized when we need such information in our code. So here is an example. So inside our Ansible playbook, suppose we have to print which server is exactly being used. So we can just gather the Ansible, use the Ansible facts variable, that is Ansible underscore distribution, and then the message will come up with the OS name. It's as simple as that. So here is how you can make Ansible explicitly or implicitly stop gathering facts. So inside, as we discussed about the configuration file, so inside defaults, as I mentioned, gather underscore facts, there is a parameter called gather underscore facts. So if you set it as no, then Ansible won't on its own go and gather facts of the server. So if you don't want these unnecessary details to be gathered before running your script, and there is no requirement for you, then you can set it as no. And suppose you and for example, second scenario, if you want to gather only specific facts, then inside the Ansible playbook itself, in the setup, you can give a filter that is only gather Ansible underscore distribution for me and nothing else. So you can tweak the Ansible facts and gathering files as per your need. Ansible documentation is pretty straightforward, and you can use whatever is required inside your script for as per your requirement. All right. So now finally, in the next lecture, we will discuss about plays and playbooks, which are the heart of Ansible. Thank you.